Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about bringing in an ArchiCAD model via IFC into SketchUp and use PlusDesignBuild to detail it up for frames and for estimating. So let's just switch over to that screen so you can have a bit of a look. So I've just imported a model here and I've got a blank screen there that I'm going to open it up. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about before I import it. You'll notice the axis location is way over here, and that's not really what I want unless I'm going to stick it back into ArchiCAD or into Revit or something like that, and it's geolocated. So in this particular instance, I'm going to show you how to import that model. So I've got a blank SketchUp file here, and I don't have anything in there other than just the standard SketchUp file. There's nothing else in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in IFC, and this is in PlusDesignBuild, guys. Really important that you understand that. IFC, and you might find it in other versions later. If you're not sure if you've got it, just put a comment below. Import IFC, and I'm going to choose that IFC file, and I'm going to go open. And you'll notice that it's actually importing the IFC geometry now. Okay, and it's going to come up with a little prompt that actually says what's been imported. I'm going to go close. The best thing about ArchiCAD is it didn't actually put too many layers or filters in it, and it was due to the way that it was actually imported. Now, I've just imported an IFC file there. It's actually not the right one, not the one I wanted. But just to have a quick look at this, guys, because I'm going to go back over, is that if I go and click Optimize, as soon as I've done that, it says, would you like to change the origin axis to the center of the project? And if I click yes, what it's going to do is it's going to optimize the file. And guys, this could take 5 to 10 minutes, and it will beep as it happens. So I'm going to go back over to the one I've already imported, because essentially you'll notice that this file has already been broken down into tags. And what do the tags mean? Essentially what the tag is it's broken the IFC information down into, well, what used to be called layers inside of SketchUp. It's now called tags. Okay, so I can go through and turn beams off, and you'll notice that the beams at the back here are turning off. I can turn off my IFC element proxy. Now you'll notice that I just got that beep. That means that the other model is now imported successfully, and I have those layers, right? So that took maybe 2 or 3 minutes. All right, so going back to our model, there is a bit of an issue here. When I turn off IFC building element proxy, it's turning my roof off. And that's not really what I wanted. So what it means is that this geometry is actually on the wrong layer, and you'll see, or tag, and it actually says IFC slab. Now Revit and ArchiCAD both do this, and it's just by the tools that have been used to draw it. And the architect or the designer hasn't known to change the IFC information according to what type it is. So obviously we know that that's not a slab, so I can go through and I can simply change it to IFC roof, right? And if I turn IFC roof off, I now have it. But what happens when I turn element proxies off? It's still there. So to explain that, it's a group of components. So if I go inside of here and click inside of it, if I use a keyboard shortcut called Control Hide, I can isolate that geometry. Right, so now I've isolated the geometry, and you'll notice that the tag inside of this top section here is IFC element proxy. I want it to be IFC roof, so I'm going to click the drop down, and I'm going to go down and go IFC roof. And now when I go back to all, or click outside of my component, I should have it on IFC roof. There we go. Right, so now all that geometry is on IFC roof. Now, one thing I find when you're using blue geometry is that if you're selecting something, so let's have a look over here. If I select this, you'll notice it goes blue dotted. And you can change the color of the dots in SketchUp, or you could just change the color of the geometry in the IFC. So I'm going to go to Materials, Select, and I'm going to choose the blue geometry, and I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to make it a different color so it is a bit easier to see when I've selected something. Right, so let's stand back and just take a look at that for a second. So if you've ever imported an IFC model before, you'll know how hard it is to actually get it organized again inside of SketchUp. So what this tool has done so far is it's imported the IFC, it's optimized the IFC, and basically it's also taken out hidden geometry inside of the IFC. And triangulation, if you're not aware of what that is, when geometry is imported by a lot of things, it actually comes with a line through here because it makes triangles, because that's the way the software works. And then they basically hide a line here, and it looks like one face, but unfortunately it's two, and that's a problem. So the optimization tool has actually solved that problem, and it's organized the model. Let's have a quick look through this model a little bit further. So I'm going to turn my roof off now, and we're going to have a quick look, and this, what I'd recommend for everyone to do is to actually look through the geometry and understand what's happening first. Because I've never actually worked on this tool before, on this particular model. It's fresh, it's the first ArchiCad IFC file that I've actually imported for a little while. And you'll notice that everything is still on those layers. So you can see that there are doors there, pretty basic doors, but if I turn them off, it's turning them off. And curtain walls, maybe. Not sure where that is. Columns, yep. Element proxies, beam. And really what's happening is I'm breaking this model down into what's left. So I've got slabber, I'm going to turn my walls off there. And now you'll see that I'm getting sort of right down to the nuts and bolts here. Windows, stairs, no IFC space. If there's something that's there that's not required there, if you can simply go in and go right click, delete tag, basically you will then remove anything that you don't require. Okay, being there was no geometry, it didn't come up with say, would you like to put that information on another layer? Now, I'm going to go back to all, I'm going to go to see all here because it just was quicker than going and turning them all on together. Now, I'm not building any of this stuff other than the house, so I'm actually going to go through and delete all the stuff I don't require, and I might just purge it. Let's get rid of this fence here. It gives us a better understanding without having to go through layers to find things out. And delete those. And I'll delete that. Right, and you'll notice I've got a block there, so I'm actually going to use erase, which is E as a keyboard shortcut. Guys, as I said, if you're looking for how to set up your keyboard shortcuts, we have a post on our website that you can utilize for that. So now I have my block, and it's actually a reasonably flat block, so I don't even know if I need that, so I'm actually going to go through and delete it. You could group it, go right click, make group, and you could just hide it. H is a keyboard shortcut. But the reason why I'm going through and getting rid of anything that I don't require for the project is it just makes it easier for me to navigate. Alright, let's get through this as well. Just so basically I'm just selecting stuff and going delete. If the gate was going to be there, we might want to quantify it. And this will be concrete here. So yeah, we'll leave everything the way it is here. Get rid of any of this entourage that isn't required, depending on what you're going to do. If you're going to render it up, then fine, leave it in. But I think you'll find that Sketchup will do a better job of rendering anyway. Alright, and we've got these element proxies in here as well. If you do want to quantify these items in here, leave them in there, but maybe just go through and turn off what it is. So as again, I can just go through here and turn off everything except for element proxies, and I can go through and figure out what I need and what I don't. Because essentially you're making your computer do more work, and you're making everything do a little bit more work. Right? I'm going to want to quantify all of this stuff here, so that's fine. I'm going to turn those off, and I'm going to turn furnishing elements on because, you know what, I'm not going to buy chairs for this particular job. I'm looking at it from a quoting purpose only. Wardrobes I might, and you can change things around and change the tag or the layer on these as well. You know what, I'll get rid of all this stuff here. Right, okay, get rid of the bed. Okay, so basically just clean the file up. I'm going to go back to see all, right? And now I have a cleaned up file. I would encourage you to save the file, so Control S. We'll save that file now, and I'm going to hide my block again. And we're going to look at a couple of ways to detail this project up and to estimate. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go out to this roof out the back here, and you'll notice that everything on the roof tag or layer is green because I changed it before. So if I actually click on that and keep clicking until I get to one face, you'll notice it just highlighted a face. I could actually go up here and attribute it with material. So if I said I wanted something I'm going to quantify by area or by lineal or by square or by each, I could basically select that, and then I can filter everything that's done like that, that's estimated like that or quantified. So I'm going to write in here corrugated. Okay, COR got me up, and you'll notice that I have internal finishes. You can see I've got a corrugated for an internal. I've got cladding, but I've also got roofing, and being that we're dealing with a roof here, I can essentially go through and choose what material I want to put on there, and you'll notice it says apply to selected entity, and therefore what it did is it actually gave it the texture that was associated with the product. It makes it easier to distinguish what you have and haven't done. Now if I actually turned roof off here, you'll notice it put it on a separate layer to the IFC roof layer. So I went to IFC roof. That one might not have been on the right layer. Let's have a look. Okay, you can see there that this ArchiCad hadn't exported this properly. So a good way to look through a file and find errors in the file. Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to go in here and I'm actually going to turn roof off, and I'm going to select this face here, and I'm going to go through and apply it to a selected entity again. Turn my roof back on, and you'll notice that now I can see when I'm missing something. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now, if I go back to all, see all here, get outside of it, if I actually did a takeoff of this model right now, it's actually going to go through, and you'll notice that I didn't turn up in here, and it's because this is grouped geometry. So what I would do is I would explode that geometry, explode, right? And I'll go through and do my takeoff again. And now I have my roofing, okay? So it's a good idea to check this as you go. So if you do one thing, just quickly check it and go, oh, okay, it's inside of group geometry. Let's just delete it out of there. Or another way to do it would be to actually select the geometry, right click, explode it, and then go inside of it and select what type of roof we're going to put on here. So I've done that again. I'm going to go back to my tool, which is probably still open. There it is. And I'm going to choose that. I think it was this one here. Yep. And select the entities. So shift, select two entities, apply product to two entities, and now I have the roof. So when I actually did my takeoff now, I'm going to have the quantification of those two roofing products. I'm going to turn my roof off for a second now. This house is actually a passive home. So if we ran a section through, we might see this a little bit better. Right, so I'm going to go to here. Okay, and I'm going to move these sections through the house, and hopefully it explains to us a little bit more about this actual project. And you can see how thick the walls are and how thick the roof is, which is kind of unusual because the majority of the time you might use a 90mm or a 4-inch rafter or purlins, whereas the distance between here and here is substantial, and we have different insulation barriers. But you can't see it in the IFC, but you will see it when we actually start to put some more detail in it. Okay, so I'm going to delete that section cut now, and I'm actually going to go through and put some rafters in my roof. So I'm going to go and select the two faces inside of here, and I could have selected the roof faces as well. Actually, I'll show you that. So if I go out of here and go and choose my roof face, and I click on the roof face, I could actually go, and I'll just do one side for the moment. If I go right click and I go roof framing, create roof framing, I can choose everything that I want to do. So I could exclude or include rafters. I can have a crowned in rafter. I can choose under purlins, everything required. I can also choose my material sizes. So my rafter size, if I'm going to use hip and ridge materials, I'll leave it at these at the moment, guys, just so you can see what's going on. I'm not going to measure it all up, but that would be what you would do, and I'll explain that a little bit further. My purlins and my battens. So basically, if you hover over anything here, you'll notice that you've got help text in here that helps you understand what you're putting in and where you're putting it in inside of everything. Okay, so I'm just going to go submit straight off the bat here. And I'm going to go to see all for a second. Inside of that, see all. And now you'll notice that I have actually got rafters inside of there. Okay, I have rafters, I have battens and so on. And I may want to alter them or change them around according to, you know, how I want to do this particular project. You can see that I probably should have changed my overhangs a touch and so on, but I think you get the idea, right? Control hide is what's isolating this geometry for me. All right. Now, obviously, when I do a takeoff of the model now, I'm also going to have framing in there. So now I have roof battens, and it tells me how many meters of battens I require, how many screws, because these are recipes associated with it. And guys, if you're not sure what a recipe is, it's basically when we say, okay, well, every square meter of roof or square foot of roof, you might have X amount of screws. So if I went to my roofing here, you'll notice that inside of my roofing, I also have screws to fix the roof to the batten, because it knows every time I need roof, I actually need screws. And you can assign as many different types of screws as you like, or as many screws per unit of measure, in this case square meters. Okay, so let's have a look at how we would go about doing our walls. Now, what I want to do is I actually want to isolate a wall out of here. So I'm going to select this ArchiCad wall, and we're going to have a bit of a look at it and understand some things about the wall. So I'm going to move, and I'm going to go Control. I'm going to bring the wall out just so we can kind of figure this wall out. Okay, right. So you'll notice the way this wall is drawn, it's not actually the way we would build it. We'd actually have a flat top plate, and we would have, you know, this would be like a parapet, and this is covering up the ends of the rafters so that we can have our insulation come up. So I need to know about this wall before I can actually start to draw it. So the first thing I need to know is my stud spacing or stud thickness. So if I'm just going to choose a keyboard shortcut and go dimension here, that's telling me my studs are 155. It's an unusual size in metric. It's probably 140, or it could be that it's actually got this could be a level of insulation and it hasn't been attributed by ArchiCAD. Whatever it is, you can change your stud sizes and everything in PlusSpec, but we'll get onto that in a second. We're going to need to know our height of our frame. This would be our pitching point or our XY line, and we're also going to need to know the height that this cladding actually comes up the roof. Right. Another thing we're going to need to know is our window height. Right, so you can see that the top of the window is a 2201, and this will make sense in a second. And we're going to need to know our actual window height, and that's 1200. That one is 800. And these widths will automatically be put in when I start to draw my wall. So if I went to my wall tool here and I drew one wall, right, I can go and put these in. So you can see I've got 23, 22. It's already put in because I've done it before, and I can choose the type of wall that I'm going to do it out of. So it could be lightweight frame with cladding, or it could be a multi-skin wall, which would basically allow us to have extra layers inside of our materials. So let's have a look. Materials. Okay, so in this particular case, I've actually chosen a brick wall. I probably want to go a lightweight multi-skin wall, and then I can actually go through and choose a product on the outside. So the red here is signifying which product I'm choosing. And if I go in and choose, I'll choose, say, a Kingspan 2mm. I'm not going to worry about these measurement guys because I just want to get it done so you can see. But you can see that this Kingspan is 50mm wide. The WeatherTex is 9.5mm wide. The Gyprock is 10mm. My insulation is sitting inside of my frame, so it's not required. Wrap, termite barrier if I want it. All of the products that I want to choose to go around my wall are there. And then I could go down and I could actually choose my lumber size. So I'm going to choose a 140 frame, 140 by 45, and I'm going to also go down to the very bottom, and I'm going to go to manual overrides, and essentially this is going to allow me to type in the height at the top of the wall. So you can see here that I have an eave drop off, and it's a bit hard with my mouse there, but you can see that I have an eave drop off, and that is the distance down from the top of the wall this would sit, but I actually want to go up. So I'm going to go external lining, eave drop off. I'm going to go minus 470. So minus 470. And I'll quickly just trace over this wall here, but I'll do it outside of it. So you'll notice when I started to draw there, it's trying to draw from the frame. I'm going to use my right arrow button to bring that wall outside of there, and you can see as I push it. And I'm going to go down, and I'm just going to, looks like this wall's got two different step downs, so let's go to there. And I've now drawn that wall. And you can see it's drawn outside of the other wall. And the benefit to that is that I could essentially go through and add my windows. So if I went here and went right click, windows and doors, add window, I can type in 1200 for the window, and I can choose the window height that I want. So let's say we're going to use a double hung window, and we're going to make it 1200 high, and it's window number 1. Okay. The next window is going to be 800 high, and it's going to be window 2. So the benefit of the IFC, excuse me, over at DWG is that it enables us to know exactly where things are in the third dimension. I could bring this wall back over and I could actually replace this wall very, very quickly. However, you would want to go around and do all of your walls in one go. So I'm going to show you a couple of tips. And let's get back into full screen. So I'm going to show you a couple of tips here, guys. How would I go about figuring out where all these window locations are and everything? Now I know my wall height that I created there before. How would I go about actually making all my walls? And here's the answer. So if I go to section cut and I run a section cut through at a place where all windows and doors will intersect, and I'm going to say that would be, say, here. If I can get it. If you can't get it, push your up arrow button, right? And it created a section and go, okay. So now I have a section and you can see how big this section has actually got because there's other geometry inside of this model and that's not ideal. In that case, I'm actually going to undo that and get rid of that because I can see there's something over here that shouldn't be there. So Control Z, when I click on anything, it will tell me if there's anything else in this model. And it's actually my little SketchUp character. When I had to import it or optimize my file, I should have gone and made it so that the axis was in the center of model. So what I would do is I would actually select this geometry and move it, or I would delete this character over here. I like to work closer to axes, but both will work. Right, now I'm going to run my section cut. Yep. And go back and choose the location. Now remember, if you push your up arrow, it's going to force it to blue axis. Right, and go OK. And all I want to quickly do is double check that I have got all of the windows in there. I've got that one, I've got that one, I've got all my doors. That's actually what I wanted to do. So if I right click this section cut and go create group from slice, you'll notice it actually created this blue line. What it's actually done is created a slice through the model, more like a DWG would look. And if I push move before I get out of this, I can move it over a distance. So I'm going to type in a distance. You'll see down the bottom right hand corner there I've got 26 there. I'm going to type in 25. You'll notice I'm on an axis as well. You can force it to an axis, so if I went right, it'll force it on the red axis. If I go left arrow, it'll force it on the green axis. I'm going to type in 25 meters, enter. Right, and now what I could do is I could actually bring, and I'm going to delete that section because I don't need it anymore. I could actually drop this down to my floor height, and I can see that through here. I'm going to hide this wall, and I'm going to select that, and I'm going to move it on my blue axis, so push my up arrow, and until I get to my floor height. Now when I go and draw my wall, which is this one here, I'm going to go right click walls and create similar wall. I can go over to my section cut, DWG or whatever it is, and I can start to trace around my walls. So I'm going to choose this location from here. And so that I don't draw from, I want to draw from the outside of my wall. I'm going to go through and quickly trace my walls. I won't get too caught up here, guys. I probably could spend more time, but I think if you don't know how to draw walls, go and check out the wall tool tutorial. Right. And essentially now I have my walls with my parapets and everything in there the same size as the original wall that I chose. However, this front wall here is a gable. So from looking at the plans, I understand that this wall here, I'm going to go walls edit, and I'm going to change it into a gable. Alright, gable, and the degrees, say 35 degrees, go submit. Right, and if I actually grabbed all of this, I could group it together first, and I could go make it group, and I could move the whole lot, 25 meters I think I wrote, enter. Right, and now you can see that now I can go through and create my windows a lot easier in this particular view style. So right click, I'm actually inside of a group, so break inside of the group, double click, and I'm going to go control hide so I can see my original and go right click, add window, and I don't know the height of this window. It looks about 600, I'm going to eyeball it, and choose maybe appropriate window type. Type in my size, 600, and go submit. Right, and then I can choose my window location or type it in according to the window schedule. You can see that 600 wasn't exact, it was a guess. Right, but what's also happened is that now if I actually went to create my scenes, and a really important part of PlusDesignBuild, and go submit, you'll notice that across the top, that is actually creating these scenes. And this means that basically what's going to happen is we can break this down into structure. In this case, you'll notice that because I didn't move my model to axes, it didn't know where to look. But if I look at my structure now, you can see that I have my rafters and I have my framing in there. And whenever I put in a window, I also have a header to hold up those rafters. Right, so guys, this is helping you figure out things, and you'll notice that the header's pushed above the top plate, and that's because of the installation required to build this particular project. Right. Okay, so I'm going to go back to see all, and we're just going to go into this a little bit further because that's repetitious. If I keep doing the walls, you've seen it before, but I'm going to get rid of my block here, hide, and we're going to go in and we're going to also attribute our concrete. Right, so if I select that, you'll notice that I actually, it's on IFC slab. So I could go through and turn off all of my IFC layers. I could, and essentially now that I do that, you'll notice that this has a volume associated with it. Now if I wanted to create that into concrete or a particular type of concrete, I go back to my tool up here and I'm actually going to quantify things by cubic. Right, and now you can see that it automatically went slabs and footing. So I can go through and choose the strength of concrete. I might say 25 MPa, and I'm going to apply the product to the selected entities, and you'll notice it changed the color of it. It also changed the layer or tag on which it was put, and therefore I've now got the cubic capacity in my takeoff. If I hit takeoff, I now have, you'll notice how much more I've got. I've got framing, windows, door, roofing, insulation, fix out, cladding. So many things are quantifying as I go. But if I went to my slab and went into here, you'll notice that I have 11.214 cubic meters of concrete, trench mesh, and a whole heap of other things that are required according to the recipes I added in there earlier. All right, so there's a couple of things there that basically, if you already know how to use PlusSpec or PlusDesignBuild, you can very, very quickly fully detail up a model so that it's ready to be built or ready to be the frames cut on site or sent to a manufacturer to actually build those frames. But there's a couple of other things I'd like to show you that we've automated with IFC as well so that you can save a heap of time. And let's go back to the model and have a quick look. Okay, right. No, here, close that estimate down. Now, you'll also notice it says apply estimate to IFC components. If I click that button, it says the estimate has successfully been written to the IFC objects. Would you like to generate a takeoff now? So the answer is yes. Right, so now I'm generating a takeoff. I'll actually have IFC components. So what this has done is it's actually gone through and counted all of the doors. You notice it also counted the stairs, the windows, and everything. And depending on how well the architect has attributed or exported this file will depend on the quality of information you get out. Now I haven't actually done this before, but let's have a look. These are just named window 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It doesn't have sizes in there. You can go through and change the sizes of those windows if you choose. Let's have a look at our stairs, our roof. Now we've got some element proxies on there. If we wanted to know what they were, we could go through that. Or if we went to say our IFC furnishing elements, you'll notice I have elements. If I wanted to find things inside of my model, I could actually go through and you'll notice it hid the rest of the model and just found the geometry that I clicked on. All right. You can see there that now I can quantify or see what it is I'm adding, and then I can go in and call it what it was. So this might be I think it was this one I clicked. Yep, no, this one. Right, this might be a special joinery. So I could actually go and rename it now. And when I rename it once, and it might be, I don't know, 1200, whatever, you can measure it up, 1200 by 2300. And it might have a product code, and we might have got a price from our supplier. So we can essentially go in here and say, okay, this is going to cost us $1,500, whatever it might be, 15,000, right? And I can go and choose this and save and select, right? And now you'll notice that I have $1,500 for my special joinery. If I go back and I look at my furnishing element here, there it is. If I go back and then do a takeoff of the whole lot, again, it's going to add it to the total price of the project so far. Now I've only done one wardrobe, a little bit of roofing and so on, but the more I continue to detail, not only am I going to get a detailed virtual design and construction model, I'm also going to get a price associated with it. Now I add my own prices according to what's required, but and every subcontractor or tradesperson would do that because we all get different prices. However, what we can also do is we could actually create it as a quotation request to send out for somebody else. So if I went to my roofing here and I actually clicked on my roofing, you'll notice that it remembered that my roof supplier always supplies these products, and you can see that I don't have a price in there. If I went show in model, it's going to open up everything on that layer, right? And if I actually went edit see more, I might want to get a price on this. So I could go generate a report, and you'll notice I've got an item code in here, 21 roof. And from my roof supplier, follow down to here. And what do I want to get a price on? I'm going to say my roof and go generate. I created a purchase order then. I should have gone and created a quotation request. So quote, generate. Right, and now I have 0 figures in my roof. I want them to add, and you can see that it's remembered the last prices that are required. So that could be a quote that I'll send into the client, or it could be a bid request. Generate. Okay, and now everything is 0. Tells them what they need to be supplying according to the recipes I wrote in there. I can go and get these prices, then I can re-import them back into PlusSpec via a CSV, which is here. Alright, so that's a lot of information to take in, guys, but I think that the main point and the reason why I wanted to show you this is that tracing over a flat set of plans can actually be time consuming. The hardest thing about just getting a set of plans is deciphering them and then going and putting in the information. Whereas the IFC, when you import that IFC and then you can measure off that IFC model, you can see how this project is going to go together virtually. And when you can see that, you find all of the problems that are going to come up in the plan. You can overlay your engineering plans. You can associate price, or you can get quotes from it inside of a software without actually leaving anywhere. If you're a Xero user, guys, you can send all of this information to Xero as well. And that way, all of your books at the end of the financial year will be in line, and you can also do a profit and loss as you're midway through the job to see if you're missing anything, or next time you should allow more, or you overquoted for a part of the project. And that's what it's all about, to actually deliver a project to a client, and you being sure that you can build a project, number one, and you can also do it for a feasible price. I hope it helps out, guys. If you've got any questions, ask them below. I'll put a couple of extra links in there that will actually show you how to export an IFC model if you're an architect using Revit or ArchiCAD, and I'll also put in some links on how to create keyboard shortcuts. Alright guys, take it easy. Cheers. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you dislike the video, push dislike, but tell us why. If there's dislikes there and you haven't told us why, there's a good chance that you're just a whinger. Cheers.